Thank you all for joining a wonderful Thursday evening session of Meet the Music Makers. And I'm joined by somebody, Mark Weiss, who is hard to describe because you go, what is he? One of the best rock photographers of all time? Nah, that's not enough. What is he, an author? Nah. What is he responsible for? And look behind him, you see a lot of cool eye candy right there. You see props from album covers, you see memorabilia, etc. What is he? Just a guy who's around all the greatest stuff ever? What is he? The guy who made Skid Row happen because he introduced Sebastian Bach to the members of Skid Row? Whatever you want to call Mark Weiss, it's an honor to be speaking with him again. Good evening, Mark. How is it going there?
Going great, man. Thanks for that. I got to take you on the road with me when I do these book signings.
Well, you are usually you don't call out competition or peers or anything, but when it comes to thrash metal, you're talking about the big four. They say Metallica, Slayer, Anthrax, Megadeth, and you're part of what I call the big three of photographers. And if there's a great photographer, if there's a great photo taken of a hard rock band in the late 70s, 80s, 90s, it was taken by one of you three. Every damn photo of these great bands, odds are Mark Weiss took it. Simple as that. So that leads us to this great book, which we see next to, The Decade That Rocked. You photographed in other decades that rocked per se, but how long was it from saying, I'm going to put together a photo book with great copy in there to actually getting it done? Was it a long process?
Would you consider almost 8 years a long process?
I mean, China's Democracy by Guns N' Roses was like 13 years. So it's not Axl Rose long, but 8's a lot.
I came in second place then. No, I wanted it to be perfect. It took a couple little road turns and it ended up being, the perfect book that I wanted. At first, it was going to be a very different book. And then I decided not to go that route and to go like more about my life as a photographer and share my story and my trials and tribulations and wanted that to be my first book instead of just a quick eye candy kind of like pinup type book, which, would have been a lot easier, believe me. So it kind of took a turn after a couple of years. And then I just went full on, doing where it got and just wanted to, again, it took a couple different turns graphically and just had a team together that just was perfect at the end. And I signed my contract 8 years ago.
Not your only book. We're going to delve into that a little later, that there is another book coming from you in the very near future. But The Decade That Rocked, which is visually stunning, it's about a foot away from me right now. I don't feel like picking it up and knocking over a bunch of beverages. I also cover beverages per se besides the rock world. But I love it because you'll see one or two photos of a great band, but you don't usually see a collection of great photos. So it's the kind of thing that you can put on your coffee table, if you have a coffee table, and people will just be impressed by, even if they don't love those bands. Was it a hard process to actually select which photos make the cut?
Well, that was part of the length of it, how long it took, because I kind of designed with the art director 600 pages. And then at the end of, I did it because I just had to do it. I knew we had to cut, 400 of them because originally it was only supposed to be like 250 pages. So I knew we had to cut it, but I had to just do it like it was going to be the full book. And then once it was done, I looked at it and I'm like, all right, this is great. Oh, and I says, no, it's not, because now what am I going to do? It's like, which baby am I going to throw over, And I just kind of like went with like whatever the story was, like whatever my storyline was, like not just, Motley Crue, backstage just hanging out, even though they're cool photos, that didn't tell a story. But Motley Crue on a bus, with, drugs and booze around and everything else, that told the story, of the time. Same thing with Ozzy, ironing Amy, is one of my classic photographs, or Ozzy in the bathtub. So the photo had to tell the story. And of course, all my album covers, those are stories in itself. The Bon Jovi Slippery When Wet, was an ongoing story with the band, you know, and myself, you know, where it was first called Wanted Dead or Alive and turned into Slippery, and there was a couple album covers in between that was no one even knew about, which I tell in detail the story where it was never told before. So that was really it. Plus, no, but you know, there's also like, you know, like during 85 and 86, it was like the height of the hair bands, or the hair was at the highest.
Yeah.
So I did a section where I had, you know, Mike Tramp from White Lion with his hair sticking up, you know, Axl Rose with his hair sticking up, you know, Sebastian Bach before he was in Skid Row and Madam X with his hair like as high as you can get. So those are still stories, you know, they speak for itself. And then I have my early years that I really loved, and I had to cut so much of that because of it wasn't supposed to be about the decade before that rocked. It was it was important that I did tell my beginnings. So that was cut quite a bit. And, you know, I plan on doing other books that elaborate on more of that, as well as each year. So I have a lot of plans. And it's funny when you said like, which decade was it? Because that's exactly what Sebastian Bach said when he got the book. He's like, what do you mean? Like what decade did rock? And to me, it was the 80s. I mean, the 70s definitely rocked, but the 80s rocked. I mean, the 90s, we're still rocking. But to me, I love that name, and I feel like that really was the decade that rocked. So
not only are we still rocking, but if you go down the checklist, Motley Crue, if you know COVID can contain itself a little bit, going to be playing their biggest tour ever in 2022. You know, they did play stadiums, but not really headlining the way that it's slated for 2022. Ozzy is retired and unretired like 4 times. I think he just rescheduled new dates for 2022. Bon Jovi, when they're in the area, they'll still do their MetLife Stadium gig. If not, they'll do 6 nights at Madison Square Garden. These bands in the book are still big. So one thing I'm curious about with you, who was the first big band or soon to be big band that really embraced you and took you in? Was it Bon Jovi because you're a Jersey guy?
Well, I actually took them in. I shot John when he was 18. Not that we met then. A couple years later, I shot him at the Garden, opening up for ZZ Top. And then in 85, when Doc hired me to shoot this new band called Bon Jovi, because he was managing Motley Crue, who I was already working with, that's when we got to know each other. And that's when, you know, I remember John saying, I can't believe I'm shooting with Mark Weiss. And I'm like, you know, I said, one day you're going to tell me to get that camera out of my damn face. So we kid about that. Actually, the first band that really the first artist that really took me under their wing was Ozzy in 1981. I was only 22, I think. And it was my first photo shoot with Ozzy. And I was working for Circus for a few years already. And I really wanted to do covers. I felt like the covers were awesome. You know, they're on the cover, you know, you pass by the newsstands, there they are. And they're out for a month or two. So Jerry Rothberg knew I wanted to do it, and he gave me a shot with Ozzy, and we just hit it off. And you know, I told Ozzy to turn to the left, and he turned to the left. I said, turn to the right. And then I said, wow, the Prince of Darkness is actually listening to me, you know, some punk kid from New Jersey. So then I started goofing around with him. I said, all right, now do this and do that and move in. And I started making sounds and, you know, like to get his attention. And he started laughing. And, you know, next thing you know it, you know, we have this relationship that's still going strong, you know, to today. So yeah, I would say Ozzy hands down.
In the case of Ozzy, there's a bit of revisionist history. And I'm not going to say anything that ever gets you in trouble per se, but hear me out here. He was not as big as we're led to believe he was in 1981, when were they still called Blizzard of Oz at that point before it was called Ozzy Solo, or was it officially Ozzy Solo?
I mean, you know, the first record, I think the story is called Blizzard of Oz. So you can take that as that's the band, because you usually have the band on there. You don't have a title of an album and not the band. So I don't know. I can only speculate that the second album, it probably said Ozzy Osbourne on it. and that cool font. And then what was the second one? Was it Bark at the Moon?
Yeah.
So then it's kind of established himself. So, maybe, I mean, a lot of what artists do is they'll do they'll do a band, and if that fails, then they can go solo,
Right.
So it's kind of like an insurance policy.
So at the beginning there, Ozzy was not this, he's going to be huge thing to everybody. So when Randy Rhoads tragically passed, there's like 3 videos of him whatsoever. And so the fact that you have photos of Randy Rhoads is such a rare commodity. Very few people have that. Did you know that Randy was that special back then?
Yeah, I mean, he just had a way of him about him. He didn't say much, he didn't talk a lot, but he just had a way of, being so humble and just quiet. And then when he goes on stage, he turns into like this monstrous guitar player, and not monstrous like crazy, but just classy monster, or however you want to call it.
Classy monster. That's a book title right there.
And he unfortunately he didn't have enough time to show what his real love of music was, which is classical, which I'm sure that in the years to come would have definitely shown. And that's really the biggest shame of it all, that we weren't able to see what this really guy had to offer.
Yeah, and Randy is kind of a bridge, because behind you we see some interesting Quiet Riot pieces. Randy was with Quiet Riot before he joined up with Ozzy, and I heard a rumor that you might be working on a book related to Quiet Riot's classic singer Kevin DuBrow.
Yeah. What happened was, maybe a little over a year ago, Missy, the girl that used to be the fan club president during the mental health years, and DuBrow a little bit, contacted me and wanted a photo of this photo I shot of Kevin, where he was wearing this gold necklace that she gave him before he went on Solid Gold. I think that's the story. I'll have to read it. She wanted me to use the photo. She said, "How much does it cost?" And I gave her a price, and she's like, "Oh, okay, well, thanks anyway." I'm like, "Well, wait a minute. What do you got going on?" I like Kevin. He was actually one of my best buds back then. The rock stars that I knew. He actually gave me the keys to his house when he got this big mansion on Rossmore. And whenever I was in town in LA, because I was from New Jersey, whether he was staying there or was on the road, he gave me the keys. So we hit it off, And so I said, send me what you got, because she was just going to self-publish it. And she obviously didn't have a budget for photographs, and she just wanted my cover. So it was pretty much just going to be a small little book, just something for herself, her memoirs of her. She had like a lot of notes and ticket stubs and really cool stuff. So I'm like, this should be a real book, like a coffee table book. And I said, let's partner up, let's get involved. Let me get involved, and you can use my photographs because I took over, not took over, but I started shooting Quiet Riot when they were at the US Festival. And then a few months later, they opened up for, I think it was Sabbath, at the Garden. And then I did my first photo shoot where it was the Bang Your Head cover, where the graffiti on it. And that's when I met them. So I have that era on. But really, and Missy had some great DuBrow stuff, because, Quiet Riot really came from DuBrow.
Yes.
And that really was the formation of Quiet Riot. So she had all this, like these ticket stubs, little pictures with Randy and Rudy and Frankie and literally like 10 other musicians.
Kelly DeGarmo, Carlos Cavazzo's brother.
Right. There's actually a family tree in this book that we did that shows all that. Yeah. And then I thought, well, why don't we get my friend Ron Sobel, who was literally Kevin's best friend, who lived with him like before he was, anybody. They were both budding photographers. Kevin was a photographer, and they both loved Humble Pie and same band. So they got to be really good friends, and they were the roommates. And I met Ron early on because he was doing lighting for Quiet Riot. And I asked him if he would, take a price break on this. I showed him the book. I said, I'm not really making any money unless we recoup it, and and Missy makes money, So I said, would you let us use your photographs? And he did, and we have these amazing photographs because he did, Kevin in the beginning, he was his roommate, and he did all the Kevin, the Quiet Riot. He did the famous Japan album cover shoot where they were in the locker rooms. So we have outtakes from that. And I recently went to Los Angeles to pay respects to Frankie, because his widow, Regina, we couldn't have services during COVID. So she wanted to have this celebration of life at the Rainbow that would have been his 70th birthday, which was a couple of weeks ago. And I went down there, and then they had the service the next day, and it was really beautiful. And they had this bronze statue she got together where you go to the Rainbow now, you look to the left and you'll see Frankie's going to be looking down on you. And it was really special seeing all the old people from Quiet Riot, Warren Ettner, John Basilou, and I said, I told Regina, I said, look, I really, when Rudy joined the band, I was so happy, it is what the band needed, that lifeline. And I said, I'd love to do a photo shoot. So we did it around that period, and they came by my hotel, and it was so weird. Everything in my hotel was black and white stripes, like the cabana was black and white. And, it was just really, it was like, so like, kind of blew my mind a little bit. So we did the shoot out on my roof with the cabana, and then I had some ideas with the masks. That's why I have these 3 masks. I have 4 actually. You get it. They're not the real masks. I got them at the costume shop, licensed. But so we just had some fun with that. And so anyway, so I'll give you a quick peek. I did it. So when I went out there, I did a mock-up. So it's not really this thick because I pasted it together, or my assistant Camille did. So it's probably half this, but it's almost like 250 pages. But this is the cover. This is the shot I told you about.
Yeah.
It's Keep On Rolling. And it's called My Fan Club Years with Kevin DuBrow and Quiet Riot, featuring photographs by Mark Weiss and ensemble by Missy Whitney. So that's the cover. And these are some of the photographs. Let's see if I can pull a few out that are cool. So this is her and Kevin. So there's good stories. It's a really cool book, really good stories. And there's also stuff like, what the fans got.
Wow.
And what else we got? Oh, this is what I love. It's these questionnaires. These questionnaires that she kept, that she actually had them fill out. What's your favorite color and all this.
Yeah, so old school fan club thing.
Everything. And then there's great photographs, and it's a really compelling story. And I'm really proud to be part of it. And while I was in LA, Laura, Kevin's mother, found out I was coming in, and I sent her a book, and I wrote something to her, and she called me up on the phone, and she's like, when you're in LA, why don't you come visit? She said she wasn't going to go to the service because, COVID, and she just didn't, want to, it might have been too much for her. So me and my girlfriend, Mikkel, went over to her house, and we had lunch. She had lunch and with her niece, Tamara. And we just spent some time talking. And then I said, do you mind if I, turn the camera on and just talk to you about, Kevin? And, we looked through the book a little bit that I just showed you. And, it was just a nice afternoon. And then after that, I went to, which was only a mile away from where she lives, where he was resting, Kevin. Mm-hmm. And I went over there and paid my respects with Mikkel. And it was really nice time. So it's my passion project. I mean, and I'll probably end up self-publishing it. I want to just do it right, and
Yeah, I am with you on a few ends. Well, first off, most people don't realize, isn't that Kevin's brother on the E-reality show?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So that never comes up. People don't make that connection of that top doctor is Kevin's brother.
I think it's called Botched, right?
Yes.
Yeah, he's a top doctor. Yeah.
He's a top doctor. And Quiet Riot comes up in a lot of my interviews. For example, the film that you talked about that Frankie's widow produced, what was it called? Quiet Riot, There's No Way Back. I forget, it was a really long name, but a great documentary on Quiet Riot that Regina did. And the cinematographer of it, Skye Borgman, I interviewed her last week because she was doing a Hulu junket for this new show called Dead Inside. Wait, what's it called? Dead Inside? I'm pretty sure it's called Dead Inside, but it's a sort of a crime documentary. And I'm looking the research on her, and not only did she work as a cinematographer on that, but she has a forthcoming Randy Rhoads documentary. I think it's called When Ozzy Met Randy.
Nice.
And you know, that's going on, and we see Quiet Riot is back on the road with Rudy Sarzo. You know, the Ben Folds song called Rockin' the Suburbs mentions Quiet Riot in the chorus. Quiet Riot is out there, it's just not all the dots are connected. So we need the people like you to properly help document all this stuff. And thankfully you were there before, during, and after.
Yeah. Well, I agree with you. And I really do feel like with Rudy's involvement and with Regina behind it, I think in the next couple of years, it's Quiet Riot will get their due respect, because every band, you know, talks about how if it wasn't for Quiet Riot, we probably wouldn't have a record deal. And I think it's time, and I'm just doing it because I love Kevin and the band. So I'm doing that my own, you know, my own guilty pleasure, you know. But if it can, you know, make some people feel good that we're close to Kevin, that's even better. And
a little birdie has told me that the show on Hulu that was directed by Skye Borgman is called Dead Asleep, and she was the cinematographer on the Quiet Riot documentary. But you made a really, really good point there about the whole, without Quiet Riot, so many of the LA hard rock bands would not have gotten a record deal, because Quiet Riot was the first hard rock band to have a #1 album on the Billboard charts. That kind of showed all the record companies of, well, they can do it, we can get one of those too. So Quiet Riot's success predated Motley Crue and Rad and Poison, etc. So, you know, I rest my case for them being in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and deserving it. But another band that opened up the doors for everybody was Van Halen. And something distinct about you is you have been able to shoot both David Lee Roth and Van Halen over the years. For the years when they were not working together, I think you kind of had to choose sides. Or do you disagree with that statement?
Yeah, well, it's like having two girlfriends. You don't tell the other one about the other, because I had the same issue with Ozzy and Sabbath and Dio, you know, because I was working closely with Tony and Geezer and Ronnie and Vinny, and also with Ozzy at the same time. But I just wouldn't tell the other one about the, like, if they said, so where are you going next? And I'd be going like, oh, I'm doing a photo shoot with Ozzy. I wouldn't say that, you know. I would just kind of, you know, I wouldn't lie to them, but I just wouldn't mention it. And vice versa. So same thing with, you know, when Sammy joined the band, I did the Monsters of Rock when they did the tour book. I did all the photographs for that. And I was also doing some stuff with David as well. So, you know, it's just, you just kind of, you know, I don't like to show and tell. I feel like the more you tell, it could hit you in the ass, you know. So I believe that I like to show off here and there, but I don't like to overdo it. And, you know, I don't like to, you know.
Yeah. Something that I was told, if I could name drop, not that it's impressive, but David Lee Roth's publicist for over a decade was Mitch Schneider. Do you know Mitch, or did you know Mitch?
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great guy. Everyone loves Mitch Schneider, still doing it, still probably Aerosmith and Ozzy and et cetera as publicist. Now, a lot of the photos that Roth used in that early 90s to late 90s period were kind of staged photos. He really had an eye for it. When you were directing him for a photo shoot, was he telling you, this is what I want? Or did he go, Mark, you're the pro, you do you?
Right. Well, I really didn't shoot David in the 90s, but my last shoot with David was really in the intimate, right in the middle part.
Skyscraper era or Eat 'em and Smile era?
Probably right before that, like right when things were going, you know. He came to my studio, he wanted a photo shoot. publicist called me up. He said, David wants to know if you're available for a day. And so he came by my studio, and I wanted some props around, or something David Lee Rothish, so David was great with props, and he had to keep it moving. Every time I shot him backstage from early on, from 81, I would always come up with like if we were in a locker room, I find a cage and put him behind it and have him look through it. Or if he was outside, on the grass, I give him a kite and he'd fly it, So props are good because, it's, you never know what they're going to do. It's like, you give him a kite, he's like, what do you want me to do with this? So that you'll get something out of him. But if he flies it, that's even better, and if he gets stuck in a tree and he ends up climbing on a security guard's shoulders to get it out, then you got a shot, So it's a little bit of a process. When it came to my studio in New York, I wanted it to be a really cool couch. So I went shopping for a couch, and I found this couch, and it had like lips all over it, and shapes of women, really colorful. So I got that, and he's like, as soon as he walked into the studio, he's like, he went right to it. He's like, that is the coolest couch I ever saw. And so we started shooting, we didn't waste any time. And then, and then you just switch backgrounds, because back in the day when the magazines were really ruling the land, every time I shoot an artist, every magazine wants like a different type shot. And David wasn't letting anyone really shoot him except a handful of people. So he wanted to do the shoot with me so he could keep everyone happy. So if Hit Parader needed a picture for the cover, it has to, be in this background. And if Circus wanted something, or whatever the case was. So I would say bring as many tops as you can, pants too, but if it's, as long as it's, different tops, then you can it's an easy switch. But he would bring full outfits. He even brought his sword, because he was doing his karate moves, and and I threw some smoke in there, did the signature Mark Weiss smoke, and he had the whole outfit. So he came prepared, and we got a lot out of it. So when the publicist gets the call, we need some pictures of David, we want to send a photographer, like Mitch would say, well, David really doesn't have time. You got to be nice, but we have these great shots that, just shot with Mark Weiss, and, and then they would go, oh yeah, but they're everywhere. He goes, no, but we'll get these to be exclusive for your magazine. So we would do that a lot. That would be what we did. And it got me a lot of work, and the publicists liked me, and the artists liked me, and it wasn't like working for either one of us.
Wow. Before I ask you about your clothing line, I was watching the documentary on Slowzower a couple of weeks ago, and a big focal point towards the end of the documentary is about how he realized, hey, film is kind of dying, I got to go digital, and how much work and effort has gone into digitizing his collection. And in the process of that, realizing how much he had, how that has become a full-time job of digitizing, and also realizing, hey, I've got so much unreleased stuff. Maybe these are books, maybe this is that. Has that kind of happened to you, being that there weren't gigs to shoot, there weren't so much photo shoots over the last 2 years?
Well, I only I remained active shooting, even though there's no magazines. I did it for myself, and I also have a couple sites that I do interviews, and one of them is Rock Scene, rockscenemagazine.com. It was a magazine in the 70s that I own now, and it's basically just a site. And the main thing is I do like 10-minute, 15-minute interviews of the artists, talking about before they were who they were, before their first record deal, or so it really, from when they were a baby and they first got their hands on something, whether it was a pan or a guitar that someone gave them, it tells that story. So I did that, and I still do that. So that kept me busy, like from sound check to the show, because I would like to go to the sound check, take photos, and then the show, and which I like to go as a fan. But of course, I'm going to take pictures because you got the best seat in the house in the photo pit.
Right. I didn't mean to imply you were doing nothing over the pandemic. To be clear, I find though, speaking for myself, I began digitizing my old interviews from 20 years ago. I found so many people were unearthing stuff in that idle time of going, there's not a lot of gigs. What am I doing here? So I didn't know if you hit a similar point as Lowe's did a couple of years ago with, this is a full-time job digitizing my archives. If that's not you, no worries.
Oh no, like I digitize my photos when people like if there's a documentary, like Rick James just did a doc and they actually interviewed me for because I was his photographer.
Great documentary. Saw you in there. I did the junkets with Andre and all that. Great documentary.
Yeah. So whenever someone needs it, there's a Dio one coming up. This is the year of the doc, or the last couple of years, and I don't think it's going away because they're interesting and people want to know what they've gone through, and so our archives are valuable for that. So I don't do them personally. I have Camille, who's my archivist, do it. I hate it. I hate throwing my photo in a slide thing and waiting it for it to go. I just but she does it. She likes it, and then I get them back and I look through them on my screen and I pick out, and then it's fun. Then they're on my screen, these pictures that I shot 30, 40 years ago. And then I edit them, things that I haven't seen. And then that's when I start pulling them out. And then I use them for my galleries and I sell them as prints. But, I don't make it a 24/7 job. Anything I do is not a job. It's for fun. It's a way to make money, obviously, but it's someone always wants it. Just like back in the day, they wanted pictures for a magazine. Now they want them for a documentary. So I have to give it to them. It's my responsibility to give them photographs so they could make their doc. And then once I get involved, I want to, they'll ask me for an interview. So I'm going to be on this interview that they're doing on Bon Jovi, and that's coming up, where I took him where I did the photo shoot for Slippery and took him around to his first house that was down from where I live now. So it's fun stuff, and it all helps for the brand and helps me with so people come and want to meet me, and I'll sign a book to them when I do my book signings and talk to people.
Book signings like the one you have this Saturday in Connecticut?
Yep, in Greenwich, Connecticut, at the C. Parker Gallery. There's details on my Facebook page. It's C. Parker Gallery in Greenwich, and storefront. It's not just me; it's a collaboration of other photographers. It's all rock and roll. So I will be there from 2 to 4 on Saturday, and it's supposed to be really nice. And it's Greenwich, so it's pretty cool.
It's Greenwich, yeah. Well, before I get to some questions that came in from people watching this or people who sent them in, I understand that you have a clothing line and it benefits a great cause, Glenn Tipton's Parkinson's Foundation.
Yeah, well, actually, I have several artists that are on board, and one of them is Rob Halford, and Rob decided to donate his portion to Glenn's, the foundation that Glenn is supporting, and I just happen to have it right here.
Whoa! What are the odds of that one?
All right, so this is it. So it's not like it says Judas Priest or Rob Halford. It's just the image, and this is the image that's the forward in my book. Rob did the forward, and then it has my my signature on it, just like a photo, and it has my own little stamp there. My little camera.
Oh, I see it.
And it's Recycled Karma, which is a great brand. They have like every rock shirt. Like they're not cheap shirts. They feel really soft. Like this Tom Kiefer one, and this is the back of this one. It's The Decade That Rocked. So, and this is my Tom Kiefer. It's so soft, like it's like you don't ever want to take it off. And then you have this tight one. This one I did of Stephen Piercy from Rat, jumping in the air. That's in my book. It's like really soft and like
That's a very rare photo of Piercy with a guitar, even though he is primarily a guitar player.
Well, it's a blow-up guitar. I used to bring props, like that's it. I used to bring props. Yeah. I used to bring props, blow-up guitars, because you never know what the other one's gonna do with it. So I have probably 30, 40 people. I'm gonna do probably in one of my books. I'll do a whole series of all of them, like John Bon Jovi and Yngwie and all sorts of people. Like, what are you gonna do with it? Some of them like smash it, some of them bite it, So that's one of the things where you get a reaction. And then the other thing I did was bumper stickers. Because we used to go to all these bus stops, and there used to be these stupid sayings back in the 80s. And so I would go there and find something stupid, like, I don't even remember, but I still have a stack of them. But I have a lot of rock stars posing with them. It's just fun,
Wow. Well, first I'm going to lead in with a question from Terry, who may or may not be watching this. And part of my literacy skills, I was in the slow reading class in 3rd grade. I think I've gotten a little better, but I got a master's degree, but that doesn't mean you can read very well. And she says,
give it a try.
Hi, Mark. I bought a copy of The Decade That Rocked for myself last year, and I love it. She put stars around the love. So I think that's a lot of love. Terry said, I want to buy it as a last minute birthday gift for a friend, but I went to Barnes & Noble and was told they don't stock it. Where can I buy it so I can get it by next Friday? By the way, I've been following your career in images since the 80s, and no one else ever seemed to get such consistently amazing photos like you shot and still shoot. And the Decade book is full of really cool photos I've never seen before, even as a longtime fan. There's a little more. And some of the behind the scenes stories are hilarious. I hope there will be more books in the future. Thanks for answering my question, Terry. That's a compliment question.
Yeah, what's cool is I love that kind of stuff, because on Amazon, where you can, get the book on Amazon, but it sounds like she needed it right away, because no one really goes to bookstores anymore. I mean, I don't think, or they do, but they usually go on Amazon or online shopping and things like that. So it sounds like, she needed it right away for whatever, and they didn't have it. So they are in Barnes & Noble. They're not in all of them. It's one of the things I'm trying to figure out, get some logistics and try to get more in there. I was actually in one the other day nearby, and they didn't have any. And I said, hey, do you have The Decade That Rocked? And they said, because no, we had a few last June is when it came out, but it sold out and we never got them back. And I said, well, we just got another, there's a lot that they're there now. So I said, call up Simon Schuster and tell them you want them, So they did. They got a box, and I said, when they come in, because it's the mall that I go to right around the corner. So I want there to be my book in the store.
Yeah, your hometown store.
Yeah, I see other ones in there. I see the Queen one and this one and that one. So I said, look in there.
Halfin. Why is Halfin getting that treatment and not Weiss? That's not cool.
There you go. Right. So they ordered it, and I said, call me and I'll come in and I'll sign them. And they put a little sticker on it that says author signed and all that. And so she just called me up. This girl, Taylor, called me up and she said, we got your books, come on in. So this just happened like yesterday. I went in there and I'm signing them. And as I'm signing it, this one woman comes up to me because, she wanted to see what's going on. Maybe she thought I was a rock star or something, who knows. And she started just looking over my shoulder, and I said, Mark, I took this book. And she goes, oh, wow, that's cool. And I'm doing the sales pitch. I'm like, these make really good holiday gifts. She goes, well, my brother really likes that stuff. I said, I signed it right to him. So I signed it to her brother, there, which I only sign, generically, because I can't be there. But then I went around looking around and had some coffee, and I come back and there's one left. I'm like, and I went to Taylor. I said, where'd they go? I thought she said she was going to put them on the author table book. So I went over there. I couldn't find them. She goes, oh, they sold them all. So they ordered 7 more, So I said, so we need to get them in more Barnes and Nobles and mom and pop shops and all that. So we're working on that. But yeah, it's fun. But you can go on Amazon. It might take a few days. Also, I sell them online on my site, and I sell them a little bit more because I sign them and I give postcard sets, and sometimes I throw in a print. So there's different bundles and packages. So it's so go to thedecadethatrocked.com and you can find it, or go to Amazon if you just want the book by itself.
You have the right to charge more because they're also getting some of your oxygen and some of your DNA on that book, and that's worth something. That's limited edition DNA.
There you go. Yes, sir.
Next question comes from Ricardo. He said, where does Mark find his inspiration for his 80s portraits? How did he do his research in a time when there was no internet or Google?
Yeah, well, that's just it. I never do research. I just get thrown into the fire. I don't even plan my photo shoots unless it's like a stay hungry out, like an album cover where I have to build something and it takes weeks to. But really, my portraits that he's referring to is it's just a feeling that you get to them. I don't want to know them. I mean, chances are I know them because I love the music, you know. But if it's a new artist, I don't care if I don't really know the artist. You know, like in the case of you know, when I shot the Danzig packaging, I really never followed the Misfits, or I didn't even know who Glenn Danzig was. But he comes into my studio, I treat him like everyone else. Now, as if you ever read in the book, that session didn't go. It went great, but it's the last time I shot Glenn Danzig. But you got to read the book.
I'm surprised you didn't get your jersey card pulled from the Danzig lack of enthusiasm right there, because the Jersey Metal Militia, don't you have to by default be a Misfits diehard or a Sam Hain diehard?
Oh, see, I don't know. I don't follow trends or anything. I just do what I like and have fun with it, you know. And thank you, Ricardo. And also thank you, Terry, for that question. That was cool. And I was saying, like, on Amazon has like all these, my book has over 1,000 5-star reviews. I mean, it's awesome. And I love reading them. They sound like them. And it's like, it's just so great reading from these people that, you know, were there when I was or weren't there, you know, product of a parent that was there. So it's really cool hearing from them. So thanks, Terry. Thanks, Ricardo. Who's next?
Cammy's question, which I'll let you answer this one. How can I get signed photos of my favorite bands? I think she could join the Quiet Ride fan club. Is that how you?
Oh, like photos of actually all right. So
I'm not sure how you answer that one. I think the answer of tell me if I'm wrong, is the answer to how to get signed photos of our favorite bands to buy the book, The Decade That Rocked, and then bring it to the gigs and get them signed there?
Well, does she mean like sign? Because I sign my prints of the band. So I don't know if she is talking about, like, you know, Ozzy or me. You know, if it's me, you just, you know, next time if I'm at a book signing, bring the picture and I'll sign it or buy one, or I sell my gallery prints. If she's referring to a picture of Ozzy, then you stalk them backstage and you know, you wait for them to come out and maybe you'll, like everyone else does, you know, with their albums or whatever, you know. So
autograph hounds.
But back in the day, there used to be a fan club and used to get, you know, signed photos sometimes, you know, which is pretty cool, but it's a little different today.
My last question or topic for you is related to the fact that, you know, you've got this great book that is out that can be purchased, the forthcoming Keep On Rolling book. There's no shortage of content from you over the past few decades. Plus, you're staying active with your website and your interviews these days. But is there a lot of unreleased material from your archives, things that you didn't sell off, things that you're holding off for future documentaries, things that good stuff that you've set aside that we haven't seen?
Yeah, I wouldn't say I set them aside. I just say they're in a filing cabinet sitting in my office or in the garage. I have so many photos. Like, it's not like I wasn't like a photographer where I just shot the band once. I would shoot them like for 10 years, you know, like nonstop. I would go on the road with Rat for 2 weeks, Motley for a week, Ozzy for a month, whatever. So I'd have this tremendous archive of photographs, and because film back then was so expensive. I mean, you know, it was like $30 a roll and then another 20 to get it, you know, processed. So it ended up adding up, and you shoot 20, 30 rolls of film during a day. It's like $500-600. And, but I didn't make that stop me. That's why I didn't save money back then, because I loved to shoot and I didn't want to run out of film. So I shot. It's not like digital. That's why I do love digital, because of that reason. Okay, what was the question again? I just forgot what you said.
We're seeing so many of our favorite bands.
Oh, okay.
Work that you put out there.
Yeah.
If they're unreleased stuff, Stuff that we can still be. And let me pause you for a second. I say that because anyone who loves Jimi Hendrix knows that Jimi Hendrix's estate has put out new stuff in 2020 and 2021. The guy's been gone for 50 plus years and there's still new stuff coming out.
Yeah, there's always news. There's always stuff, But so what I was saying is the color film is so expensive. I would bring more black and white because two things. You don't, at least you're capturing the image. The magazines didn't really care about the black and white, or you didn't get as much money for black and white. You might get $25 for black and white and $100 for color. So I would shoot the black and white of a lot of the stuff that was on the buses that I knew wasn't going to get into the magazines because the bands would let me, be in their intimate settings, and it would be just, this is for me and for us and just for fun. So I would shoot a lot of black and white and not even develop them sometimes. So that's going to be, I'll probably have a book out with, it's just my black and white stuff. So that will be not this book, The Decade That Rocked, is more my storytelling, really about the photo shoots and how one led to the other. And when I got married, Zach and Sebastian met, just stories that really are related that people are interested in. This next book, or I don't know if it's my next book, will be like, I'm just going to call it like, whatever, the black and white or something, Mark Weiss, black and white. And I have a ton of other books. Like I'm actually talking with someone who's in the band, a huge band, very huge. And we're talking about, collaborating together on something. And it's going to be like, just on that artist. Because I have a lot of books in me. I mean, I could do a book on Guns N' Roses, Motley Crue, Van Halen, Bon Jovi. I mean, these big bands that I can do, but, when the time's right, I want I do want to work with the artist because I want their collaboration if they want to, be involved. In the case of Bon Jovi, I every like 5 years, I'll ask John, I'll say, you want to do a book, and no, not now. So, he's one artist that I feel that we should be doing one pretty soon. Hopefully. I mean, I'll reach out to him and ask him. I mean, not that I need their permission to do it. Anyone could put out a book. So, I like to, and Ozzy would be a great book too. And I've asked Sharon in the past. She's like, no, not yet. I'm like, all right, but there's a lot of stuff out there. So that's why I'm really focusing on marketing this one. This book came out right when COVID started. I thought I'd be going on a book tour. I was lining. I had a couple meetings with Live Nation where I could tie into some of their bigger arena acts and maybe set up something in a special room where I have a gallery. Maybe tie in some credit card companies and sponsor it and get a tour. I had visions of having a tour bus with my photos on it and just going city to city and just signing books and meeting people. So that got squashed, but I went online and started doing interviews like we're doing now, and things really changed. And the book sold out like 4 times, and every time in between, I had to wait 2 or 3 months because they did the books overseas, and you had a slow boat from wherever overseas, and it takes a while. So hopefully we won't have that issue anymore. I'm looking to self-publish in America. I think it would be better to do it here anyway. We can all use the work, and just keep rolling. So this one artist that I'm talking with, I'm supposed to have a meeting with him this month with his manager and discuss a future collaboration. So hopefully that works out, and I'll be able to announce that. That it's going to be big. If it comes out, it'll probably come out in the summer. Like really, I want to knock it out.
Is that artist Steve Brown? Be honest.
Yeah, right. Yeah, definitely. I shot Trickster once. The last time. Yeah. That's all I need.
Yeah.
I love those guys. I don't think the manager liked me.
Well, I mean, he went to NYU. NYU people don't like anybody. It's it's the norm. So my last question before I let you go, because you've been so generous with your time, is what's the next concert that you're going to as a fan and or photographer?
Next concert. Well, I work for Trans-Siberian Orchestra, so I just came off the road with them. I'm going to do a bunch of shows. COVID, hopefully, if nothing, it's you never know when the next show is with people. So I did a couple shows in Denver with them. I've been shooting them since the beginning when Paul O'Neill brought me under his belt. Who I've known for 40 years. Sadly, he passed away a few years ago, but he always wanted me to shoot his shows. He always, and when he produced Badlands, there's actually a picture of Paul in my book with Jakey and Ray Gillen when they were recording Badlands. So that's a big thing. But I don't know if there's anything coming up, to be honest with you. I mean,
no David Lee Roth in Vegas residency shows.
Oh, wait a minute. I'm actually going to reach out to David. I haven't talked to him in 30 years. I mean, so I did reach out to his people about getting involved in my book because I have a lot of quotes and he's really featured. He starts my book out. I wanted to be on my cover, but the publisher was like, he's not current now. And I was like, okay, but I wanted that image on the cover because, Van Halen set the pace for everybody. Guns N' Roses isn't bad either, but and it's about the photo. So we found this photo. That's how we got the cover. And there's a good story behind it. But anyway, so David Lee Roth, I just saw that I think they announced 2 more shows at the end of January.
They announced 2 more shows. That makes my total tally of 7 of them that the wife and I are crazily going to. So
are you really? Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
right
I mean, I thought it was the end, and then he announced 4 more.
Right. Yeah, I just saw that. So I'm glad they announced them because I wanted. I originally was supposed to go to Israel with my girlfriend, and that's when he was playing during New Year's time, and then. I saw that he was playing to the 5th. So I'm like, all right, I'll go to Israel, come back on the 3rd, and then go right to Vegas. And now I saw he's the 21st and 22nd. I think that's what it was.
14, 15, 20, 21, I believe it.
And maybe they'll close. And usually what they do is they close up the gap as they sell out, so there might be a whole string in between. But I am going to reach out to management and see if I love to see David and hand him the book, he hasn't seen it yet. And he's Van Halen there's a gatefold in there, I think, of him. I don't know. I'll show you. The book has 3 gatefolds. And one is, there it is. So, and this is.
Yeah. In all of its colorful glory.
Yeah. So, I like to hand deliver one of them to him. So I might see you there.
Maybe see you there. Well, in the meantime, Mark, let's recap right here. The Decade That Rocked, it's in stores. Maybe we'll see a tour in support of it. The Keep On Rolling book about Kevin Dubrow, and I say Dubrow, you say Dubrow. You actually knew him, so you're gonna be correct, and we're gonna say Kevin Dubrow. That will eventually come out. Other books in discussion, major artist project may be happening. Book signing here, if you're in Greenwich, Connecticut on Saturday. The clothing line that benefits great causes. 6 designs, you said?
Yep, I have, there's going to be, there's 3 right now, and I have Don Dokken, Dee Snider, and Steven Adler.
Jeez, it never ends for decades now. Thank you for your time. Great evening. Continued success.
All right, thanks. Thanks for having me have this conversation. It's number 2, so 3 times the charm. So let's hit me up again in a couple months. How does that sound?
Sounds like a plan, Mark. Take care now. Thank you, Long Beach Public Library, Nassau County Library System. We'll see you soon.
Okay.